Before we take the quiz, I want to talk about some things that we're looking for, some maintenance. The other thing that we talked a little bit about using aftermarket products versus OEM products. Most OEM manufacturers have a sale catalog, and this is Toro's sale catalog. They run a catalog sale from like November to April, and the price tag during their sale times are actually pretty much equal to R&R products. And so if you were to run the experiment and find that R&R products are not as desirable as you would like, the one thing that people look at is price. Price difference is why we're going with an aftermarket product. These prices are pretty much the same as an R&R product. So you don't really, that kind of eliminates that reason why a lot of people go with it. John Deere has a sale catalog, and so does Jacobsen. And so it's usually not an all-year thing. It's a time frame, usually over the winter months when you're actually rebuilding your reels and do a lot of preventive maintenance. Most people, if you keep somewhat a decent record of what goes wrong during the year, you can predict pretty much how many bed knives you're going to use and if you need a reel or two. And so you can actually stock up during the sale time and get yourself pretty much through the year with cheaper prices. They also have discounts. If you order an order that's so big, you get free shipping and handling, which ordering something through an R&R, they ship it like next day air typically, and it's kind of expensive. They tend to be expensive with shipping and handling. And so that's another thing to consider. So don't just look at the initial price. Shipping and handling will make the difference between getting a good deal and not. In the catalog, there's going to be a lot of options. So when you get to that point where you're going to replace rollers or something, look at what your soil conditions is, your grass conditions, and then choose what products or what components make the biggest difference to you. We're going to look at a few rollers here. This particular roller goes on a Toro fairway mower. The way this is designed, it's got two end caps and then a metal tube. Inside the metal tube is going to be this shaft. There's a roller bearing at this end and a seal and a snap ring. The reel itself, or the roller bearing, sits against a lip. There's a channel in there, and the bearing sits against it, and the snap ring keeps it from sliding too far that way. This bearing sits against a groove, and the snap ring keeps it from going this direction. As you're greasing a machine or checking it out before you run out to mow, what you want to do is grab the rollers and wiggle them back and forth. If they move back and forth, what's going to happen is as you're mowing, they're going to move back and forth. And the seal is going to run up over top of the dirt and scrape the dirt into the bearing. Run over the dirt, scrape it back into the bearing. There should be no side-to-side movement in your rollers. If you grab them and there is movement, if you grab it and there's movement side to side, there's a problem, and that needs to be addressed. And so the roller itself, when you spin it, should be very, very smooth. And if you feel these are brand new. This is what it should feel like, and there should be no end-to-end movement. Those should be pretty smooth. This one should be pretty tight. This has got used bearings in there, but when you spin it, you hear that noise? That's actually rust. And what you're hearing is the bearings running over those really fine pits created by the rust. And so this bearing, even though it feels pretty good, has already got some water damage to it. And so spin your reels or your rollers and listen for the sound that it makes. If you can hear it, they're either dry and you haven't been greasing them, or they're going bad. If you can feel the roughness, and it just feels like it's ratcheting almost, those are very, very bad. I mean, those have pitted so bad that you're actually starting to feel it, and your roller will actually go out around, and the bearings are pretty close to failure point. And so you should always be checking them. This one here doesn't sound very good either. I'm going to grab that reel. This one here, I can move it up and down. And there's a lot. If you grab this one and wiggle it, it has a lot of movement up and down. The question is, where's the movement coming from? There's two places that movement's going to come from. One of them is the fact that the bearings are very bad and that the rollers are worn down. The other one is there's a set screw here that holds this rod tight. And if the set screw becomes loose, you're actually seeing movement. In this particular one, this rod is actually moving because this set screw is not tight. So part of the movement is coming from the set screw, and part of it's the bearing. As the bearing gets bad, you've got a rod going into two bearings, and that particular one has what we're going to call a water pump style bearing. This is what the bearing looks like. And a water pump style is just like what they use on water pumps. There's actually two roller bearings. And you have two bearings with a rod between them, and that keeps it stable up and down. If the bearings start to go bad, it allows the shaft to rotate up and down. And if I can start to move it up and down, what happens is it works against the set screw and loosens up the set screw. And so you have to come back and tighten the set screw. This thing needs to be addressed. There's a problem here. And the fact that when I spin it I can hear it, that tells me we've got bearing problems. So listen and feel. What do I feel and what do I hear? That's going to make a big difference on your decision on whether you need to repair that or not repair it.